Okay, here we are again, going deeper into practicing peace in times of war. The wonderful Venerable Pema Chödron's 2006 book that is so relevant to this particular moment, the context of violence and wars and climate change that we're experiencing now. How do we hold our heart mind in peace as we live in this context and interact with friends, relations, and communities in this context that is so difficult? So the second chapter is called The Courage to Wait, and it is an essay on patience. So this is ground that we've covered many times, but as I was saying, we continually underestimate how difficult it is. So quickly, to just review last week, her first chapter presents the premise that war, whether it's in our relationships or globally, begins when we harden our heart mind. And that is the seed of aggression that we carry, this hardening. And in our minds, it's justified aggression. We're justified in hardening in the context we're experiencing, we believe. And when we harden, the result is, and we don't have really good English language yet for this experience. I'm going to use the word self-absorption, but I don't mean generic self-absorption. I mean, we limit the lens that we're capable of seeing and operating from to ourselves and our experience and our hurt and our wound in this moment. So it's maybe we can call it a self-blinding or blinding to self. So beginning with that review, I'm going to cover the points she makes on patience, along with some of my own experience in meditation. So first, she invites us to be very realistic about this sense of justified anger. That it hurts us, it makes the situation worse. It feels like in the moment that we are sitting on a keg of dynamite, and if we don't let it out, one of the expressions that she uses is that we might die. That's what it feels like. So this is trying to express in language what it feels like, and therefore how hard it is in this moment to pause and to have patience. And she names the allowing of the explosion as the seductive quality of aggression. We really think it will feel better, or it will solve something, or it will resolve our feelings if we allow that explosion to take place. We know it's an illusion from our practice, but again and again, we are dealing with karmic seeds, and sometimes karmic seeds that have been hidden to us until this moment because we have repressed them so effectively and we haven't wanted to see them. So the repression and inability to be that honest with ourselves because it's too painful, maintains an illusion that if we allow our anger to explode, that in some way will dissolve some of the pain that we're feeling. So acknowledging that, acknowledging the difficulty of what we're working with, the courage to wait is that pause without escalating in the heat of the inner explosion. So the first step is not to react outwardly. We feel the inner reaction, but we're not responding with anger. We're not responding with words. We're not responding with action. As Shantideva said, remain like a log. Do not respond outwardly. And then my experience is there's an intermediate step of finding a safe listener, asking for help and finding a safe listener. We may not be capable yet of sitting with our explosive reaction or our painful reaction that wants to explode by ourselves. So this could be a Sangha friend, this could be a therapist, but a safe listener who will then help you, help me, help us sit with the honesty of what we're feeling. So how do we sit honestly with what we're feeling? We acknowledge that there's an inner reaction, and we absolutely do not try and hide that. But as we're acknowledging there's an inner reaction, we use all of our Dharma tools to interrupt the narrative. So the narrative is an escalation. The story we're telling ourselves of why we're justified in being angry in this moment, or attached or addicted, whatever it is for you, is maintaining those feelings and escalating those feelings. We know this. But every time we encounter it, it's hard. And every time we encounter it, it feels freshly hard. So when we interrupt the narrative, we are sitting just with the rawness and discomfort of what we're feeling, that nakedness of our human hurt, our human get me out of here feeling, the discomfort that is saying from all perspectives, get me out of here, it hurts too much. So we're not suppressing that inner volcano, we're acknowledging it, we're not escalating it, and we are shifting the context by ending our cycle of the narrative. We're shifting the context to, can I be a little bit curious about what to do in this situation? Can I observe these aspects of myself that I don't want to admit are there, that I don't like, that I don't want to be there, but I'm human, so they are there. I'm really angry. I'm really jealous. I am really addicted or attached. I am really greedy. all the basic human intense emotions that are not entirely gone until we work through all of the karmic seeds. So the courage to wait is a very real expression of the courage it takes to be fearless, to see what your insides actually are, your very human insides. All the emotions that you're capable, the level of anger that we have, the level of addiction that we have, the level of desire to act out that we have, experiencing the rawness of the feeling just as it is. We've meditated all of these years and we still can be that intensely caught in an emotion. So not escalating and then learning how to become fearless. And in that sitting with the rawness, using all of our Dharma and asking for help, but using all of our Dharma to remember that if we allow it to escalate, we hurt more. And if we react outwardly, we hurt others. And it doesn't help our pain or suffering. So we have to learn that over and over and over again. The next point she makes is really important. Understanding that there is nothing really to hold on to, that there's no resolution. There is the raw energy, the humanity of the emotion, but the resolution that we crave to some solid side, this or that, good or bad, winner or loser, right and wrong, is never actually going to happen in any way that could be anything except for temporary. There isn't any point in going to one side or the other. It's not helpful. It isn't going to solve our discomfort. It isn't going to solve our inner pain or any situation that we're in. And I go back to that Zen poem, Faith in Mind. I think it's within the first set of lines, that taking sides is the disease of the mind. We want something to resolve, labeling things good and bad. I'm right, you're wrong. But we start to see that this kind of taking sides creates righteousness and blame. And this is very hard when we're caught up in the situation of our own hurt or the hurt of our family, or any group that we think of as home. How righteousness and blame is not a resolution. Rather, how can I sit with this raw, shifting energy? And it has to do with what we see or what we want in terms of how we view the context What is our perspective? And we need to shift our perspective. You know how when you're driving, there's snippets on the radio? So I was driving and there was this snippet of someone interviewing the hostage negotiators in Gaza and Israel. And they were saying how they have to build trust over years and years and years. They have to build trust with both sides. And they cannot take sides. They have to go into each situation and learn how to maintain a mind of peace and openness and work with the person in front of them, de-escalating that person's state of mind or participating in anything that will help de-escalate that person's state of mind, seeing them as human, caught up in a justified, painful anger, both sides. That's the only way that they're allowed in to meet with the hostages, see if they're safe, see if they need medicine, and start the discussion of how to release them. And maintaining that, we could say from our perspective, view of the person in front of you's Buddha nature. Maintaining that view in the context of this horrible situation and horrible acts allows the de-escalation, allows the arising of other potentials and other outcomes in the human-to-human meeting. So I don't think you can do that kind of work until you are experienced doing that work in your own way, in your own experience of righteousness of blame, which may be a totally different situation for you. Your trigger might come up in your context, your karma, your situation. So we have Pema acknowledging how difficult it is, the importance of fearlessness, honesty, and curiosity. And she makes a really important point about what patience is not. She says it's not endurance, because endurance involves some kind of repression or trying to live up to somebody else's expectations or standards of what would be the perfect response in this situation. She says patience is actually a synonym for gentleness or loving kindness. So she goes then a little deeper into, okay, let's look at this fearless honesty and let's look at, it's not endurance, but we're experiencing and sitting with our experience. And what is that like? In some sense, endurance has a kind of hopelessness about what we're experiencing, from my perspective. So this pause, from her perspective, is we automatically speed up or shut down. So let's find that. Let's find that experience, witness it, and become familiar with it. Then she says, you can involuntarily seek solid ground. So, when we have the perspective of don't run for resolution outwardly or inwardly, we don't want to overlook that it may be so difficult that there's an involuntary, let's say, letting out of some of the volcano, and not judging ourselves for that. Just say, oh, it's so strong, I can't control it in this moment. And that feeling of, if I don't give in, it's either self-harm or harming someone else. I have to let go of this explosion. And what she reminds us right in the heat of the intensity is, that's right. Something is going to die, and that's going to benefit you. So one layer of the habit of exploding is going to be replaced by a habit of pausing. And she makes another point about what is the most important time for us to be patient. And it's when we're hopeless. It's when we feel we can't do it, or we fail over and over and over again. That's the most important time to be patient, because we don't want to give up or feel that the bodhisattva path is too hard for us, so that we're not going to try anymore. That is the most important moment to be patient. So we're not quite ready to be hostage negotiators yet, let's say. I'm not quite there yet. But I wanted to mention a wonderful experience that I had yesterday. I worked with a Quaker group to do a prayer circle in front of one of the stores in Maine that still carries AR-14s and high-capacity magazines. And so there were about 50 of us. And we had all gone through short nonviolence training, and we were being held in interfaith context of prayer, in that we were coming from a motivation of peace and a motivation to maintain what we would express as this peaceful, vulnerable heart mind, and not move into aggression with our thoughts or without our actions. And it was very interesting. It was standing in front of the store for 2 hours, and the store, although they asked us to leave, they didn't call the police. So they refrained from aggression. I don't know what their motivation was, but they refrained from aggression. And as we sat there together, calling out the tragedy in Lewiston, Maine, and other experiences that participants had, as well as prayers and songs, the pause or the patience was held by a group. So it was an expression of Sangha. So having the common view of holding open mind, open heart with whoever walked by, whoever came out of the store. There was someone who was walking back and forth visibly with an AR-14. There were a couple of trucks squealing away. I imagine driven by teenagers, but I don't know. But the Sangha held each other in non-aggression and peace. And as we were coming to the end, one of the people brought up prayers for the owner of the store. And it was interesting. There was a record that the owner of this store at the time of the shootings in Newtown, Connecticut, and this is a national chain, met with some of the families from Newtown. So we could hold that store owner, acknowledging the Buddha nature of that store owner, acknowledging that the process of change might be very, very slow for that store owner, but he had demonstrated at least one moment of openness, and that we could be there with complete openness, holding each other in fearlessness and in maintaining a peaceful mind as fear arose for some, and a sense of humor arose with the teenage truck drivers and the different folks going in and out. So this, let's say this practice of holding patience and pausing and doing it with a group, we could hold each other, we could stretch a little bit, and we were doing and support each other in maintaining and holding and stretching in the patience at a level that we could understand and practice. Whereas if I was parachuted into Israel, Gaza right now, I might be overwhelmed. So part of Pema's very clear directions is being gentle and kind with exactly where you are, exactly with what you are working with, and acknowledging what we're capable of, where we need help, when it's too much, and not giving up, but starting again with what we're capable of practicing. So my invitation this morning to the group is to just recall a recent time when you were triggered. And I'm specifically not saying trauma. You might be watching the news and being triggered. That's so easy. We're living in very difficult times. You might have a difficult family situation or family member, but something that triggers a strong-ish emotion for you. And just observe what it's like for you to try and sit with that. So, does it feel like you're sitting on dynamite? Does it feel like a voice comes up and says, you can't do this, you're failing yet again. Does it feel like the narrative is so strong that trying to put it aside and shift to curiosity is so difficult that with this trigger, you need to ask for help? Does it feel like it's too frightening to sit with the rawness of emotions that you feel? Or does it feel like this is the right time? I can take one situation in this safe context because I'm remembering something. It's not happening to me right at this moment. And I can try for a short time to see what level of courage does it take me to be honest that, yes, I can be this angry, this jealous, this greedy, this whatever, and or this edgy rawness. I can sit for a second or two and then it's too much. Or sitting with this edgy rawness, the pull, the seductive quality, I can see what that pull is like. So I'm not going to direct your experience. I wanted to give you open enough instructions that you can just see and experience today with this, some familiar and some new information about the pause, the letting go of escalation, and what that feels like. So let's sit with that for a few minutes. Well, let's sit with that for 2 minutes. Going to the difficult situation, and pausing. So 2 minutes is actually quite a long time to sit with rawness. I'm going to invite you just to take a minute, if you can, to just write down your experience. Being fearlessly honest with yourself doesn't mean you're ready to be fearlessly honest to another person. So I'm going to close the YouTube live and saying hello to John and Nancy who are traveling. You may be on the YouTube live, but really allow yourself to say, I felt this. So I'll do a quick dedication before we close the YouTube. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.